invite Sanjeev to make the initial part of the presentation. It's basically the learnings, the insights from what we have seen, heard through those survey and conversations. And as you might have seen, we have also had this individual recorded uh, conversations also, about 20 of them. So we have looked at all these realities. We tried to be as diverse as we could. We wanted to kind of capture sort of all angles of the spectrum of our society. And then we then had to also look at what mother intended for Auroville. The ideals are, that's why we are here. It's not just for your and my needs. We are here for something larger. So that's what many of us, during the individual interaction, during the interviews, everyone also emphasized on that. It was very heartening to see that, even though we all are pressed with realities and so many complexities and challenges, but none of them, I mean, even the youngsters, it was beautiful to hear all of them kind of connecting back to what mother said, wrote, intended. I invite Sanjeev. Thank you, and apologies for postponing the presentation. It was supposed to have happened last Saturday or Friday, something like that, but we had to because there were new members to this group, and we had to align before we come to you. Sorry for that.
My name is Sanjeev, and I was one of the facilitators for the first two sessions, the session on education and the income generation session. And when we were invited, I think my main question was, fine, we will get people together and we'll have conversations. Would anyone listen? So the sessions were primarily about deep listening and being able to see what are the different perspectives, not about agreeing and disagreeing with them, but simply understanding different people have different realities and perspectives. And that's the part I'm sort of going to share with you. So towards prosperity was, subsistence actually means needing basic needs, but it is a collective life that is supposed to have thrive, even though we have subsistence, which means our needs are met, which many people talked about, so we can have prosperity together. Next slide, please. So we are basically looking at what was the context that we were put for in terms of none of us really understood what the prosperity scheme is. This, let me share. We still don't know what is it that will come. So we sort of started with a blank slate and said, what would it look like? And what is the reality for each person? So how do we sustain a collective life and honor the reality of each individual, right? So what is being shared here is what we got out of the 250 survey responses. We had the cluster meetings and people could go back and again modify what they had put in the survey. So it was sort of a edit and live form that they could continue on. And what could be the framework that we can think of together? So the three commitments were, of course, that we reflect the reality honestly, we reconnect with the purpose. It was, like, why are we here? What he asked. And to be able to pause and have a conversation, okay, even about money, because we don't have a conversation about money, but many of us end up spending time thinking about it. Might as well put it in the open, have a conversation and see where we are, right? So this purpose has a grounded direction. Please go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows this. There's not much to share here. It's just that there was this sense of that we have a relationship with each other, no? The relationship over transaction and trust over control is what many people are feeling is needed and currently a little bit missing. We have become very transactional even within Auroville. And how to trust, I think, is what each of us is asking. Okay, so yes, we all know this. So the whole effort was to try to reconnect with purpose, try to reconnect with what is our reality. Next slide, please. Okay, so this was the survey, and these were sort of the areas in which questions were asked and people answered. One was external spending versus internal spending. And what came out is that there is a high dependence on cash for external expenses, including things like food, including healthcare, including housing. And what were the top financial pressures? If there was a loss of job, I mean, imagine we are also talking about jobs, right? Healthcare costs, higher education for children especially, unpredictable expenses. It was also, people have dependents, not just children, no? We have older parents, and some of us have taken the responsibility to care for them. So that's also becomes a need. The maintenance received was enough for some, and others were struggling with what was received. Transitioning to a different system, we are talking about prosperity. People were concerned, how will it work? Will it be fairness? Can we trust the system? Will we be independent, individually judged? Who's going to take a decision? What is reasonable? What is not? So these were some of the questions that were there. And then the last question is, of course, what would create trust? And what would create trust is transparency, consistent delivery, being listened to, listening, and clear rules, not rules that sort of keep changing every year and it looks like, you're playing a game but the goalpost keeps moving, right? So some clarity in how we are moving forward. So then, of course, we went into the cluster meetings. Next slide. You don't have to see me to see the person. Next. Yeah. So basically, as I said, you may not agree with all that is said, and there is a report about this. This is just a few of the voices. And the idea is just to still that agree, disagree, right, wrong, find the flaw in the argument, and just listen that this is the reality of many people. Can we soak in what is the reality of different people and see that we create a system that caters to everyone if possible, no? So for many people, higher education beyond Auroville schools was the single most repeated concern as parents across all ages, all backgrounds. Scholarships for higher education were felt insufficient. Adults who want to self-educate or have unending education want to upskill themselves. There is no structured way in which they can upskill themselves, so they have to pay for it themselves. And children's maintenances are cut after they are 18, and people feel that is when it is needed most. Next one. And the sense that even in SIRE, when we are conducting programs for teachers to upskill, it is a SIRE certificate. It is not a formal certificate, right? That can be used outside. But now many people are asking certificates, whether it is asked out of compliance or whether it is asked out of needing to choose. The idea that right, certificates do tend to matter even inside, even though we don't give it. So how do we create the bridge for that? And some teachers who had been working for 15 years, they felt that they're being asked to qualify and now I have to pay for things on my own. And there's no path from going from school into meaningful collective work for Auroville youth. This was also a gap that was felt. Again, this may not be my reality and your reality, and that's why we just listen. That these are the realities of people, and this is what they feel, so it becomes their reality. Next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this was the income generation service group. You can see the voices are a little different. So the first question was, okay, if we are giving, okay, it still says maintenance here, they still called it maintenance, fine, we call it prosperity. If it costs 25 to 30,000 per person, and we've said we are going to give it to everyone, 3,000 people, then we are getting around 200 crores, which means our economy needs to be so much bigger in order to give, let's say, 33% of the profits, 5 or 10% of the earnings to it to be able to run this. So how is it practical? So this was one of the questions that income generating units asked. They are income generating units. So you have to give them credit for thinking about this, right? No, none on the education, my group, nobody thought of this, right? Okay. So they started asking questions, where is the money coming from? So like we need data, no? How is this going to work? True. So no complete data exists on who earns what, right? Who contributes what and what flows through the financial services versus in personal accounts. So a parallel economy is operating. Units are taking income directly to bank accounts. They are bypassing financial services. And this was named as a fact. Take it. Service workers and unit holders exist in different realities, right? Same maintenance on paper, but very different economic lives in practice. So these are some of the things people felt that they have shared. Next slide, please. So another thing that was shared was all essential services run during business hours, and if you are working, how do you access these? And some units could be much bigger, but they require thought, they require investment. And so the capacity exists, but how is the support available now? Or support should be available so that this happens. So the emphasis was on having a stronger economy. And I think this, all of us agree. If we don't have a stronger economy, how do we provide prosperity for all? It is a question. And the conversation must shift from distribution to production. How do we generate enough that there is something real to distribute? Okay, so this was from the income generation units. This was from collective services. That's why it says under strain yet still standing. So outside health insurance covers 20 lakhs for 750 rupees and Auroville covers 2 lakhs for 650 rupees. So there is a gap, is what they were pointing. Housing repair funds have been absent for 5 years. Residents waiting, nothing is happening, we have to manage alone. Auroville entities sell at MRP, but outside it's even cheaper. And more than 550 Aurovillians are currently without work or maintenance. The HR is not a systematic response. Next. So maintenance should not be used as a sword over our head. So when we have signed up, we have abandoned a certain lifestyle, but the community can at least support. It should not feel like I'm constantly under threat. The next question is, the people who are deciding maintenance, do they have the same reality as us? Right? Do they get their maintenance? Will they be just as strapped for cash? And first we must decide what is the minimum to survive. Forget prosperity, forget thriving, survival. Are people who are making decisions, again, what does it mean? Do they know what it means to live at 10,000 rupees a month? Right? The feeling that is somebody else deciding for us, or do they have the same reality as me? And examples were given, this is only one example, of things that were available collectively. Perhaps we would not need as much cash, perhaps even kind, if things were just available collectively for all. But we need to strengthen our collective services for that to happen, for us to have trust in letting go of the individual to be part of the collective. The collective services need to be strong enough to accommodate it. Next. So safety needs are not met. Psychological needs are partially addressed. I mean, this is a reality for the youth, no? We are not sure we'll have a house. This is our safety need. We cannot even think about prosperity when we don't know if we'll have a place to live. It's just the raw reality for the youth that they have shared. Right? Youth who grow up in Auroville and leave are not replaced. The community tries to milk them 2 or 3 years and then they watch them go. Again, this is not necessarily your and my reality. It is not to agree or disagree with it, but just to understand this is the reality of some people in our community and can we cater to all. So there's no stepping down process in Auroville. Positions are held indefinitely, leaving no space for youth to enter. Elder care should begin at 60, not 70. So this was youth and elders. Many people at 58 cannot work as they used to. Assisted living cannot function with fewer than 25 to 50 people in one place. Auroville cannot do a little here and a little there. Dental care, a child hurt at age 1, 17 years of partial coverage, paying percentage from maintenance for every single visit. Elders feel isolated, not everywhere, but enough to be voiced repeatedly. Spaces exist where elders are held with flexibility and care, but these are not universal. So what were the patterns, the 5 patterns of lived reality that emerged? One was survival. Month to month, external income dependent, anxious. One was security. There is enough, but I'm worried about fairness. I'm worried about future. The third voice was on stability. I'm comfortable. I'm starting to ask the question, what enough means. Then was a voice of sufficiency. We are secure, we are capable, we are questioning participation and contribution. And the fifth voice was me being as a servitor, asking how do I give more and what will it look like? How can I contribute more? And the truth is all 5 voices exist simultaneously. This is our voice. It is all 5. Most of us have been moving in between them at different times. They are all valid voices of people in Auroville. Next. Okay, so the key tensions that were observed was of individual needs versus collective needs or collective needs, needs versus wants, equality versus equity, cash versus services, trust versus control, aspiration versus reality, and consumption versus consciousness. Now what if the versus or becomes and, right? What if they were all and, individual and collective, needs and wants, equality and equity, cash and services, trust and control, aspiration and reality, consumption and consciousness. So how can we hold and for all these so we progress together? Next. So what are the structural gaps? So structural gaps, actually we have a data gap. Most of us didn't really know like what people earn, what people spend, and it is hard to design fairly when we don't really, it's not based on data, then it's based on feeling and based on my experience with a few people that I generalize for all. Second was ground realities. What is the external inequity? I mean, even if we are all same inside, the reality is we come from different backgrounds. So some people have family support, some people have pensions, some people have job accesses. And these are our realities that impact everything we do and the choices we make. There is unequal participation. Some give heavily, others give minimally. And even if it is not hidden, it is known, we don't know how to address it. And there is a parallel economy. Money is moving outside whatever we consider internally in Auroville as official channels. Wealth is accumulating and transparency is broken. So these are realities we must acknowledge and work with, right? And we have to also design for it. How do we design for it? Next slide, please. So we design based on principles, and these are the principles that came out that we are offering for FAMC to consider, that we reconnect with our purpose for all of us, right? That it's a system that allows us to ask ourselves a question, why are we here? Which I think the conversation started. It was a beautiful conversation. What Lakshay said. There were realities, there were concerns, but it was not only about that. It was about the all 5 things we talked about, we looked at. So our purpose, why are we here? Then the work that I'm doing as an offering. Then collective stewardship of taking things together. That everyone wants to participate. Essential, not perfectly measurable, sincerity and honesty matter. And that it is beyond money. Many people were happy if there are services that they can rely on, and we don't have to worry about how much we have in cash. But right now, how do you get to that system and how do you build trust? And that people are looking for a simple, dignified life. That's actually all that came out. Nobody asked that so many things are needed. I need a simple, dignified life so I can do my work. Next.
Okay, so what he presented were some of the highlights of many hours of video and conversations and many posters that were written, shared. So these are the key insights that we felt. What we can also do is maybe open up. I will ask FAMC if it is okay that I share this, whatever feedback, the survey results in AuroNet and user notes, put it in a folder so that everyone can see what people are saying. Maybe I will remove the names and email IDs so that you can just look through the information. And all the videos are also available. I don't want it to make it public, so what I can do is make it private. Those who have access can watch it, but don't make it public because we are not going to heavily edit it. And also this interviews of prosperity, which we did one-on-one, maybe we can upload it as a playlist so that you can hear them say in full, because there is a line of thought there. It's beautiful to hear them in full. All right, so from now on, this is about reorienting this. Is it okay if I stand here? Yeah, the light is a little bit disturbing. All right, so when we have to reorient towards prosperity, it's daunting to even call it prosperity. Many even questioned, is this prosperity? So that's why we named it towards prosperity. We are not claiming it that this is prosperity. Perhaps one day we will achieve prosperity, but this is towards prosperity. So it is not a scheme, it's not a system. We are not trying to, these are all conversations, and perhaps there is nothing new that you have heard which you have not heard before. So altogether, if you hear them, what you see is that prosperity is also a feeling. What you could see that in the video, that many feel already prosperous here. There are many ways of perceiving wealth and abundance. Once you have that receptivity, perhaps Auroville is already prosperous. That's one aspect. And then, so what is that we are trying to do? We are trying to figure out how do we individually connect to the collective resources. That's where all this is all about. What is the maintenance? How do we share? Who will take care of it? Where are the system? Like Manoj says in the video, that where are the processes? And what are the rules that we all play by? So a lot, it seems that it's very plastic, depending on who knows whom. And that has been one of the pain points of our collective, that how do we go from there towards a collective which is larger than a small village. When we grow more than 3,000, we may not know everyone. Then how do we then look at each one's individual needs and create prosperity that everyone feels that they are cared for? And which means that we need to move away from this atmosphere of fear towards somehow trust. We need to believe that perhaps there is some goodwill in the other. There is something which we can do if that kind of trust if it can be created. And how do we move away from also looking at prosperity from a very single unit, individual units, what do I get in my account, to how do we look at prosperity as a collective prosperity also? What if there is enough in the collective that I don't have to look at my individual unit that comes to my account or as my share? And then how do we also look at, there are many conversations which often looks very transactional, that I did it so it didn't come, so there is a lot of pain around that also. So how do we go from, it's not one thing, it's all interconnected. How do we invoke the spirit of offering that we all came to Auroville as a willing servitors? If we can touch upon that, perhaps we can touch upon the sense of prosperity. And this requires, like Sajiv already talked about it, really knowing about being honest with ourselves as our collective, not negating any reality. It's all lived reality. All those five streams flow together. And that's the reality we need to acknowledge. And we need to be willing to hold complexity. Some, we may be very judgmental towards a certain faction, that this maybe they're doing it for that purpose. And this also creates, then we need to create a lot of rules and regulations so that nobody misuses our system, which has further complicated our collective right now. It's very suffocating with bureaucratic measures and compliance systems. And again, it's, we cannot emphasize enough the necessity to recommit to Auroville ideals. We can never win any argument if it is just about my ideals or your ideal. We have to connect to what Mother intended for Auroville. So this is what I am trying to, from here on, we will go towards the numbers. I want to create some awareness around real numbers. We are all talking about this, all flowery language. Of course, we all know till now, whatever we said, nothing is new. But do we really know the reality of what our collective pulse is? So this, whatever I'm going to present, it's from here on, it's not, I'm not trying to say that this will solve anything, perhaps nothing, but it's like Sanjeev said, it's a conversation starter. And that's how we have also gathered together, so that we look at these numbers and have a conversation on how we can collectively move towards some sort of a collective sense of prosperity. Next, please. Okay, so population breakdown. So I begin with some numbers. I will, for a few slides, I will show you some numbers. We have about 1,880 registered residents in the ROR. And because of the court cases, for a while, newcomers have not been entered into the ROR. So there are about, I guess, 250 newcomers. And there are a few people who were newcomers before or announced Aurovillians, but their names have not been, they have not signed up the B forms. So they are perhaps about 200. And there are a few who did not fill up the form, who didn't want to be registered, and so on and so forth. So altogether, it is safe to assume that we are about 2,500 adult population directly living as Aurovillians here. And we have also 583 children who are getting support. I'm not sure if they are the absolute numbers. At least 583 are the numbers who are getting support from BCC right now. So put together, and also in the collective services, about 687 adults are directly engaged, either full-time or half-time, or some sort of a recognition is being given. So we know that there are 687 adults working in Auroville in some form of collective services. And this 750, I'm not sure of the number, it is tentative, because there are about 666 units registered right now under about 35 trusts. I have assumed about 750 Aurovillians are perhaps engaged in some form of income generating service. So put together, and we also have this big list of people whom we are not sure, they are not giving contribution, right now they have not registered, we do not know yet. So this is perhaps a big work, responsibility for HRS to figure out how do we document those 600 odd Aurovillians. Next. Okay, so if we have to look at, often we talk about this maintenance for all, why not? But do we know the numbers? So I try to, very, preliminary numbers. If we are 2,500 residents, and if we want, right now the maintenance has been increased to 25,000 per month, and that means into 12 months, it is 75 crores per year just to distribute as maintenances. This is the number that we are looking at. And what is the reality? Do you have any idea what is the current income that comes to BCC? Anyone? I'm sure some of you know. Yes, Uma? 30 crores, more or less. Almost. Next, please. Yes. So the reality is that BCC gets this year, this is not actually this year, this is 24-25. So this is previous year, this year we are not sure yet. It was 29.55, not even 30 crore. And the annual expenses were about 24 crores. And out of 24 crores, if you see the maintenance itself is about 67.7 percentage. That's 16.3 crores. And along with it, there are a lot of operational and staffing costs, which is about 5 crore. And that many of them are employed staff, workers and all. So put together, it is actually 88% of our collective expenses. All the services that you can imagine in Auroville, which is such a beautiful thing, we are managing that with just 12% of our collective resources. It's incredible what we are doing with the meager resources actually. So this is about 12%, what we are giving for non-recurring capital and repairs and specified contributions towards some sort of a development. Next. And look at the annual expenses, the sector-wise breakdown. Where is that money going? The 24 crores that we are spending, where is it going? I'm sorry, this is a little broken. But bulk of it is towards education, children and youth, the maintenances that I said, 563 maintenances, social support, and prosperity services. Organization is 2.23 and there is some prosperity services. This is at least in single digit. Thereafter, if you see, apart from this health and education, everything else is under 1%. One digit. It's all at 0.85, 0.89. And put together for, look at city planning, we are giving 0.44. We are giving for roads 0.34, for farms 0.21, and we are supposed to be self-sustaining collective. And look at housing for almost 1,800 units that we occupy as residents. We are giving 24 lakhs to maintain all of them. So you get the idea of how we are actually sustaining. Now, all this means we need to take care and somehow the money has to come in. No wonder we call it parallel economy or whatever, but we are somehow managing our affairs. So this is 24 crores, in a way, breakdown of this expenses. Next. Now this is the income. So out of 24 crore, where is the money coming from? As I said, we have about 666 units. Put together, they are generating income of 16.74 crore. That is 56% of our total kitty. The income that comes to BCC, it is 56%. It constitutes all the 666 units put together. Rest comes from guest houses and individual contribution. So here, this is something to note. 3.49 crore, about 12% of our contribution to the BCC comes as form of some sort of a individual contribution. We call it ICSC. And that's about 3,800. That constitutes 12%. And there is a meager 1 crore grants. Put together, it's about 30 crore. Next. So, as I said, this is what the arrears figures show. BCC is yet to recover this money. I'm sure many of you have encountered this email from BCC asking for previous arrears of your individual contribution. What is remaining? What is the number? It may individually, when you get an email, it may look like, oh, why are they after me? It's just 3,800 or cumulatively maybe few thousands. But put together, it is 6.27 crores. This is what BCC is running after. And the units which are yet to give their contribution, because they also calculate 33% according to the balance sheet, they are yet to give about 5 crore. So it is BCC's job to now go after and find this 11 crore, which can come and add to the collective services, which is missing from the collective services. Now, what are the chances? Looking at previous trend, we have recovered about 70% of income generating units. The arrears slowly they give. And in terms of residents, the individuals, the recovery rate is about 30 to 40%. That means we need to see what do we do with these numbers. Next. And so if we look at the 4-year trajectory, I'm sorry, the thing is all broken. The formatting is gone. But more or less, the 2 years are the previous ones. 25, 26 is the current year. We are seeing not any sort of a dip, but maybe we will continue with this 29 crore income, and perhaps the 24 crore expenses, we will keep it same, nothing goes up or down. And if we have to go towards a new prosperity system, some sort of a system that can take care of every adult, every resident, every willing servitor, then we may have to go towards a number, say around 80 crore. And now that's a question for us all to seek answers. Where does that money come from? Next. So I also looked at the balance sheet of last year. Again, last year is not available. This is 24-25. And what we have as income is about 372 crore. Out of 372 crore, the units have given 312 crores. It's actually an impressive number in that sense. So what is that they have given out of 312 crore to Auroville BCC? They have given, next slide please. They have given 7.9 percentage. If the annual turnover is 372, BCC receives 29-30 crore. So the percentage is 7.9. So I am assuming everyone has calculated more or less 33% out of their income, out of their profit. If 7.9 is 33, then actually their percentage, what we are making in Auroville out of 666 units, the profit margin is about 23.7 percentage, which is again not bad. And look at where their main expenses are. This is kind of quite telling that, remember, all the maintenances that we get is 16 point some crores. And what we, out of all the units, what the people that we have employed, we are giving about 70.42 crores as salaries. So something to look at again. I think FAMC is seeing how we can engage more Aurovillians in also all sorts of units. So this can reduce the load on the collective services and the BCC budgeting. Next, please. Okay, what is that we are proposing now? After looking at this reality and the numbers and where we need to go and the ideals, these three things are given. So we need to see how do we strengthen the collective services. Again and again, everyone, when you speak to them, they all kind of long for some sort of a collective support system, services in place. Because it is non-existent or depreciating or somehow flailing, then people are, then they need to manage on their own, make do somehow, which means that they need cash in their account to manage their affairs. So the trend for more requirement for more cash is no wonder kind of running parallel with the deteriorating collective services. So what do we need to do? We need to somehow strengthen the collective component of our services. And we need to also strengthen the internal economy. How do we create, in a way, create the prosperity system that it also helps in sustaining the self-sufficiency of the collective? And the third component, which everyone also kind of feels as a need of the hour, is that they need some cash to manage their affairs. So we looked at the numbers in the cluster conversation. We looked at what will be the ideal thing for now to manage their affairs in a decent manner. And what came about was that individually, out of the whatever, we are only going to talk about the percentage right now because the numbers may change depending on the BCC's availability. We are looking at 60% as cash component and 40% as the internal economy component. And the difference here is that the cash component from now on, we are trying to bring everything to Zoho and AIS. So the cash component will go to the bank account, your individual bank account. And this internal economy, this 40% will stay within Auroville, within the financial service. Next. So as I said, what is the fixed collective services? What is this component will do? It will help in creating robust collective services like water, energy, electricity, education, health, housing, uh, all the things that we long for in the collective, we can strengthen by investing more in those collective services. And when we say cost, it's also operational and it's also the maintenance cost. And it should be centrally budgeted and centrally funded. So this is how it is being done, but we need to strengthen it in a way. If you have seen that number, we are only giving 12% right now to the collective services for all the things that we need. We need to somehow rebalance this. And there will be no choices in this, because whatever comes to the BCC, they look at the collective services requirement and first fund that, and then remaining is given as a maintenance. So this is part of the balancing act that BCC does, FAMC does. Next, please. So flexible. So this amount that comes to our internal account, the FS account, you cannot encash it anymore. It stays within Auroville. You may use it for various community contribution or your food and other requirement within Auroville. But as I said, you cannot encash. And it also, in a way, slowly, because all our units will also have Aurovillians coming and participating and using their internal economy, internal currency, it will strengthen this self-supporting ideal of Auroville. Next, please. And the component, the 60% component, goes towards what the collective services is not able to offer right now to the collective. So, and then they have the individual choice of where do they get the best deal for their buck. And it is to manage their responsibilities, which individually we all have. So this goes outside Auroville, as I said, to the personal bank account. Next, please. So if you look at it, ideally what we are suggesting is that this, when we talk about the fixed and the collective and the individual component, it should be at par at least. So if you are spending 16 crores for individual maintenances, what if we can also have 16 crore towards collective services to help our electricity, water, all the basic needs, health, education, etc. But like I said, right now we are really not balancing that one. So we need to see how do we fill this deficit, fill the gap. Next. Okay, so what do we propose right now? This is, as I said, towards prosperity. There are about 10 steps that we recommend. This is the conversation that we are going to have on this. What is your take on these recommendations? And FAMC members are here now so that we can have a conversation also later during the Q&A. The first point, the first recommendation which I propose is that we have no more individual contribution to the collective services. So no more of this taxing. No more of this 3,800 and then managing and then chasing them that they give or not give. So this will actually save a lot of headache for the individual, and also it will save the headache for the collective services that's trying to manage it. So first thing is eliminating this individual tax component. Next, please. And somehow then the second recommendation is somehow move towards basic subsistence for all. So this terminology, I'm taking it from the dream. Mother, in one of the paragraphs, speaks about that everyone's basic subsistence will be taken care, and also a sphere of action. These two terminologies she uses in the dream. So I borrowed the term and use it here, basic subsistence for all, which means every servitor has access to the basics: food, clothing, housing, health, education. Now, this should be, in my view, a first priority, and perhaps we need to set up some sort of a subgroup to ensure that we budget it, we plan it, and we also find resources to ensure that this is implemented. So the way going forward, I will be using the subsistence and sustenance kind of often, so that you know there is clarity here. When I say basic subsistence for any individual to be in Auroville, it has two components. It has a collective sustenance component, which I said, where we don't have to have any exchange, it is there. For example, puncture service is there. For example, healthcare is there. For example, schools are there. We don't worry about how do we pay or whatever. So that's a collective sustenance. And then there is an individual sustenance. So the flexible, the financial service account component and the cash component are part of sustenance, individual sustenance. And they both form basic subsistence that every servitor who comes to Auroville can have that basic, so that he does not have to worry about the basic insecurities of life and offer and be the maximum, the potential that he can live or she can live. Next, please. So, as I said, ideally, the recommendation is that we should go towards 50-50. Where do we find the funds? This we need to figure out. This is something which I would like to hear from you also. What do you think about it? Should the collective component and the individual component be, at least for now, we aim to be kind of similar, and later on, if prosperity, if abundance permits, maybe we can also lean more towards collective services when everyone sees the benefit in investing in the collective services. Next. So right now, go back please. Right now, as I said, if you look at the composition of how BCC is spending, it is based on priority. Whoever is has been crying a lot, or something is broken, then there is no way out, then they somehow provide for it. So it's basically priority resource allocation. It is not some sort of a balanced or proactive. It is very reactive. So how do we go towards proactive resource allocation? Next, please. Okay, so this I talked about 60-40, and all collective services this way will be strengthened. And so this again, it can be periodically changed, nothing is fixed. When we have more and more internal services ready, we can migrate from cash to financial service. We can say, hey, these are the services which are already available. If, for example, if I have to take petrol from outside, there is no option for spending it inside. So if some sort of electrical vehicles or fleet or ITS is strengthened, maybe then we can offer an alternative, then say, can we now look into this fuel component of our collective, which is a huge load? And provided more and more residents are taking it in a way, we don't have to then worry about individually giving it to the financial service, we can move to the third basket of fixed services. For example, the puncture service. We don't individually charge, or we don't even know how many are using. It's just there, and collectively it's given as a fixed maintenance, and then it takes care of everyone's need. So if we can take a leaf out of that, and more services can operate with that spirit, it'll be great. Next, please. So as I said before, internal stays within. From now on, what I recommend is that we need to protect the internal services so that this resources also kind of somehow get distributed, gets trickled down to all those 666 units. This is, after all, our money. If people can spend here, even if it is a little bit wanting, this will strengthen our internal services. Yeah, next. Okay, so this is something which we need to look at. As I said, we need to look into the collective services, reinvest, but how? Right now, BCC is already loaded with so many other responsibilities. So who will manage all this planning, budgeting, proposal writing, and look into, how will it work? What are the units that need to be resurrected? Which are the ones which needs to be strengthened? Which are the new ones that need to be created? So all those kind of things. So what I propose is that we create a subgroup that can perhaps work under FAMC or RAS, or we can see where our working committee. We call it Prosperity Services. And this is dedicated towards organizing all the collective services that we have, from health, education, all this then they can make a recommendation to FAMC and BCC. BCC then just becomes a money allocating body. Already it's a big work, and getting the resources from different units and then distributing. But then to see where it goes and if it is being efficiently used is altogether a different ballgame. Next, please. Okay, the next thing that we propose is also a care package for all adults. So it may constitute from elders, which perhaps some of you are already getting in the name of, say, Silver Fund or whatnot. But going forward, it is not just for elders. It can be for any adult who has committed their life as a willing servitor in Auroville, but due to some circumstance, issue, accident, they are not able to contribute. Then we need to take care of them. It can be anybody for that matter. It can be people with illness, prolonged illness, or even if somebody is mid-age and they want to learn, shift career, or want to upgrade themselves, what if we as a collective take care of that unending education need also? And then apprenticeship, youth, some of them voice that after 18 there is no support. So what if we give some sort of a care package that when they work in a unit, when they are training, learning the craft, they are supported. And that load is not put on the unit, because then it disincentivizes the units from taking the youngster, because then you don't want extra load on your financial planning. And persons with disabilities, another, they are not huge, but we need to take care of them. And also during the times of pregnancy, we need to put them. It should not tax people. They should not go after bureaucratic systems to find measures, ways to find support. In a way, if we can set the rules that everyone can play by, and even if 10-15% misuse the system, let's not get bogged down by fixing those pilferages. I would say let's look at all those people who are getting benefited. In any system, 10-15%, 20% will misuse the system. No? Next, please. Okay, so this is a crucial thing. What we are trying to see is what do we do with the ones who are non-contributing and non-working? So there is a distinction here. Non-contributing is the ones who are working in Auroville, but they are not contributing to the financial means. Perhaps they have their own sources of funds, and they may say, see, I am here, I will offer whatever knowledge, expertise, time I have, and I don't want any maintenance from you, and don't expect anything from me. So who decides this? Who gives these waivers? So this is something which perhaps HRS, Human Resource Service, can look into, and on case-to-case basis. There are individuals whom I know offer their time, energy, even sometimes their own personal resources to various services, and we need to acknowledge, even celebrate that kind of energies in Auroville. But how do we do it? Who has the right to give a waiver, and so on and so forth? This is where the processes need to be in place that everyone can play by the rules. And then there are these non-working residents. When I mean non-working, forget about contributing, or even if they are contributing, they may give a monthly contribution without fail, but they don't do anything in Auroville. They just chill out. What do we do with them? So this is a considerable chunk, and going forward with India growing the way it is, and a lot of Indians, perhaps the city dwellers, will make Auroville as a refuge and try to come here. Any kind of few thousands here and there would not matter to them at all. So what do we do with them is something we need to figure out proactively. Next, please. Okay, so this is something which we are moving towards, accountability. The Zoho system, which we all have heard of, is, in a way, the ideal is that there is the system that makes things transparent. Otherwise, it's lost in opaque systems, trusts and units and internal account, external. We can't find data right now in Auroville. So that's a huge, when we don't know, when we cannot diagnose properly, how do we even treat, even if we all know there are some ailments in the collective? Now, this is where I think some form of, either it is Zoho or tomorrow some other platform, doesn't matter, and internally, even Auroville Foundation through AIIS, in Auroville Integrated Information Services, is trying to also put together or create a framework to see the numbers. Now, this is something which we need to migrate towards, and I would like to know from you how we can strengthen this. And another big change which we are proposing is that all income generating services, all 666 units, and I don't know how many Aurovillians are right now even working in it. PCC does not have the number. I don't know if you know anybody who knows exact number of Aurovillians who are working and getting support from income generating services. I would like to know, because I tried to dig, I didn't get. Now, what we are trying to do is that irrespective of which unit you are working in, you will send your monthly maintenances to this prosperity service. Now, through this, I mean prosperity service as in the fixed component, the flexible component, and perhaps the cash component you don't have to. At least the flexible component and the fixed component, you need to contribute to the collective. It is routed through there. Why? Why can't you spend on your own? If you spend, we don't know as a collective who is spending on what. So if it is all routed, that means about 2,500 residents, even if you take out youth elders, 2,200 adults in Auroville, we will have that number as a, it will be properly reflected as a prosperity number. Now, this is something which is new, and I would like to also hear from you. Is there any challenge in it? If there is any resistance, why? I would like to learn. Next, please. Okay, finally, the 10th is that this prosperity conversation is only half side of the coin. We are only talking about one side. Like in the video also many reflected that it will only work if there is abundance. Right now we are talking about, like I said, we need about 75 crores just for maintenances. And in an entire year, we give 30 crores to the collectives BCC, which is not even half. And we are talking about all the plans about prosperity and everyone getting, and we are all fighting for the meager resources. No wonder there is insecurity, so much competition, and so much fighting because of this limited resources. We cannot find the sense of abundance unless we match to the reality that we are living in. It's a reality that there are certain expenses which we need to meet. And I also feel that we need to, if we bring this AIIS and Zoho, we may be able to see the real number of our economy also. Again, it cannot be forced. All of you need to see that there is merit in being part of the collective. Next, please. Okay, in terms of numbers again, what do we need to sustain 2,500 residents? As I said, 1,150 crore per year. Where will it come from? If it is 33% contribution model, we can revive it again. I'm not talking about this 33% at all, not because it is fixed, because it is not purview of this conversation. When we begin the economic development conversation, we can look into it. Then if it is 33%, assuming whatever X amount that Auroville units make, and we need that 33% as 150 crores to maintain the collective services and the maintenances, that means into 3 times, this should be the money that working income generating services need to be seeing as profit in their units, 450 crores. Right now, as I said, we are about 311 from there. This is just as profit. So we need to grow. Next slide. So we need to grow. We looked at the number out of their profit. We looked at how much they are contributing out of 311. You remember? They are contributing about 30 crore. So that's, which means then they are seeing about profit of 27%, right? If it's a 27% profit margin, then our economy, then our turnover should be about 1,800 crores. Which means we need to have 5x growth. So this is the target for our next conversation. How do we grow our economy from 1 to 5x? Now, this is a good target to work with. We will then see the income generating services perhaps know the best way to go 5x or 10x. So we will go and harvest ideas like we did with prosperity. The next chain of conversation will be with the income generating services. How do we generate abundance? How do we even take care of this 4.9x growth? And this is for present population. We are not even, if you remember the governing board minutes few years ago, they said by 2025 it should be 15,000 residents in Auroville. Now they didn't look at these numbers at all. What if it is 15,000? Then we need to look backward. What is the economy that we need? It cannot be just government subsidies, no? Next, please. And if, go back. So another model is that instead of 25%, if we employ in our units more and more Aurovillians, rather than pilfering the profit towards salaries, which is really big if you have to hire somebody from outside, perhaps with that kind of efficient model, we can even see 33% profit rate. Now that will make it 1,300 crore as a perhaps target for our economy. Next, please. So this is the economic reality that we are living in. We know that the current income generating services income does not meet the collective need. And because we all run our families, we know when the incomes drop, then we need to cut corners. And that's what we are doing as collective. And of course, some children are more hungry, and we can see that the hunger is real. But instead of telling the children to somehow drink water and sleep, we need to see how do we bring resources, prosperity into the house. And that will begin with bringing abundance. So external support perhaps can fill some gap if we do some aggressive fundraising, if we can, the DCG does not become another source of, tightening the screws. If we little bit open up, that can be one source, but can we really reach 450 crore through fundraising? Again, a very tough task, perhaps easier to earn money rather than raising it. So right now the situation, the way I see it, and I would like to know from you, that economic development is no more optional. It's not a luxury that we can talk about if time permits. It's a reality, it's a necessity, it's essential. And we need to get down on talking about it perhaps since yesterday. So the proposal is that we create some sort of a furtherance group. Again, we cannot load the existing working groups to say that, hey, can you also figure out how do we do this? We cannot. They're already working to their perhaps maximum potential. So we need to have some sort of a group which is motivated, which is talented, which knows the world, which knows the economy, to come together and form this furtherance group and say how we can bring prosperity, abundance to the collective. Next, please. Yeah, so there are 3 takeaways I wanted, because I've given big numbers. What I would be very happy if this can be the takeaway after this session. One is that going forward, we need to, all residents must have an understanding of the macro budgetary planning. Little bit have the numbers in mind when they even request or even imagine, even try to find resources. They need to know what is the status of that collective pot that we all imagine to be kind of brimming and even overflowing. Right now we are on the bottom, scratching for some drops. So if this is the situation, at least let's know. Let's not hide from it. This is the idea that if we all can go back and say that, okay, we need that much and this is what we have. It's a family. We are going to have this conversation like a large family. And the next conversation I want to, so yeah, the second takeaway is that we need to, next please. Yeah, we need to consider income generating services. Somebody recommended that we call it even wealth generating services, not just income, because sometimes there are knowledge which is created as a byproduct. There are so many other ways of creating abundance. So why just monetary income? So I liked it. So I kind of retained it as wealth generating services. We need to treat it like a service. We know many who work 2-3 places in collective services. Somebody may be working in school, farewell, maybe in some eco-service, and that's very natural. But how many people do you know who work in a wealth generating service and they work in 2-3 places fluidly? Like another unit, oh, I have this skill, why don't I come and tell you, teach you, work with you? We kind of look at it as silo, and that's another problem. How do we bring this kind of undo the siloed mindset we have created for our income generating service? And it is actually not benefiting anyone, because the unit holders who are running those units, they are also struggling. They are overstretched and they are doing as much as they can. But then because there is no collectivity, there is no holding hands, everyone is left to fend for themselves. And then there is a different sort of feeling there. And if possible, as a second takeaway, if you all can go and look at each and every one of those unit holders who are kind of serving our collective with those 666 units, that they are serving us also. They are not some sort of a loan shark or a big shot industrialist. They are equally a servitor like you are and like I am, like anybody else. So if we can change the dynamic of the collective income generating services, perhaps we can go towards a sense of prosperity sooner. So the money in a way, Mother also in the video, we ended with that quote, money is a beautiful energy and we need to let it flow. And with that flow, we will see prosperity and sense of abundance and sense of this fulfillment and all those 5 things that we said. We will go towards more and more towards the sense of serving and not worrying about whether and if and when the collective will take care of my personal needs. Next, please. And the third takeaway is that if you are a self-serving resident, perhaps it's time for you to replan your future. The, if you are not working in Auroville, and maybe then Auroville is not an option for you anymore. So, what do you think about it? Should there be a leeway for it? Again, part of the conversations that we will have now. Thank you. Next, please. Yes, thank you. Yes, Sonia.
There was kind of a bit of there's a doubt or a confusion. When do you plan to start the thing? It was something in an announcement that was say there was going to be this meeting and then it will be implemented on the 24th of April. Is that still so? And what does it mean practically? Like all the people that are paying the individual contribution, they don't have to pay that anymore? I would like to hear a little bit more practical steps for people. What would it look like? This was now the. Thank you very much for the big lines, and I'm very happy with what's happening. But I'm a little bit confused of what would be different after the 24th of April.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. And see, this was supposed to happen last week, and I was supposed to process whatever ideas we harvest today and then put it in Oronet and News and Notes and then give it as a recommendation to FAMC. And in the presentation, there are a few more slides. I didn't get into it because it makes it too long. There are also 4-phased way of launching it, not just in one go. So I recommended few things that can be done on the on the 24th of April, and then October, and then time it 6 months, no, in a progression way, so that we can lead up to Mother's 150th in February 28. And if we can, all the ideals that we all speak about, if we can have a ramp of 2 years and work towards it, will be great. Like I said, we have not figured out. I just finished the presentation. They all saw it like you saw also. So we will keep it conversational, and if we don't know, we will tell you we don't know. I want to add to your question. It's a good question, that when can we do this, if you are okay with stopping the collective individual contribution. And my question to add to that would be, what will happen to the arrears of 6 crores? Will you waive off or will it continue?
I won't say it is a good question, it's a difficult question. Because, so far people presume they can give, they don't give, there was no way to, so this, the whole prosperity only works if everybody participates in kind, in work or in cash, no? So this, and what had evolved so far was, if you don't do anything, you have to give this cash. And then people gave and then they stopped giving. Then it became like a policing. So ideally, and also it was considered as a tax. Many people say, oh, I've given this city service contribution. Why am I not given service of this and that? So we want to integrate it into our needs package, and not as a tax. But those which are pending, it's a sizable amount, 6 crores, right? Now, even if we say, okay, we start from, let's say, another 5 months or whatever, right? When everything is all aligned, is everybody willing to give their component of at least the fixed part and the flex part? Okay, cash, they can keep it themselves. But, the fixed part is going towards our collective services that we will anyway consume, like water and energy and all that. Today what happens is, when the billing comes to individuals, then GST gets applicable. We are not working in a budgeted service, right? Idea is that each of our service should be budgeted. There should not be any connection whether somebody is here, not here, working, not here, because some people may be not well, they may not be working. So we can't be isolating. Those have to be independent, right? So everybody has to work somewhere whereby we have some accountability of where the money flow will come. Okay, many people are seniors, so there is a senior care package. There are children, so children come. So on one side, we have to increase our income generation in order to balance out the need for what we need to distribute and what we need to consume. So at this point, it's a good question, as you said, or a difficult one, where maybe let's even just say we leave the past 6 crores, and then we say, going forward, if everybody does start participating, then we can start looking at the budget to see if we are even coming close. If you are not going to come close, it's going to be a challenge. So those are things we'll have to start slowly, do it in phases. And also those who will say, no, I will not work, I don't care. So there will be challenges. So these are areas we'll have to see with the, residency criteria, with the ATSC team and few people, also support group. So talk to people, what happens, how can we engage you with work. Also HR has to be strengthened. So all this requires a lot of goodwill from the collective and also our services that, we all have to see how to work together.
Thank you. Uma, before you add, let's keep it conversational. I would ask you or anyone else, okay, if we waive off the 6 crore rupees, you saw the budget, out of 24 crore, if it is 6 crore is waived off. Now, if the wealth generation services are not able to generate that gap, then what do we do? Then BCC has to cut corners somewhere. So do we want that? Again, can it be conversational like that? What is your idea? If everyone thinks this is good, then let's go for it and let's generate more funds. Great. Anita? Yeah, Anita and then Tapas Ramnarayanji. And I didn't see any other hand. Prasad. Somebody has to, Vijay, and you have to keep count, Payanaka. From Paidha. Yes. Who's starting? Anita, you have to wait. We have booked all night. Just joking.
My feeling is that we can't just wave off and say that, okay, let go of it. It has to be case by case. If somebody has got the financial means, and if he's not giving the money, we should put pressure on that. But in the case of people who are really struggling to meet the ends meet, and they are really not in a position to pay money, then we should give the waiver. That's my stand.
Okay, the question is then who will meet individually those 600 people and make the decision? That's a challenge right now. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we need to create a subgroup which can assess this.
Anybody else on this topic, or we go to the next topic? Ade topic la, Tapas?
In your presentation, there was this topic on data. Do we have the full data, complete data on Aurovillians?
I know what I know, I don't know what I don't know. Like, some data we have, but there is, I don't know. Depends what data are you asking. Like, if it is about income and expenditure, yeah, we have. But if you, like I said, I don't know about income generating service, how much they are spending. I don't know how much they are reinvesting, how much is the capital expenditure, things like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, Ramnarayan speaking. You see, waiving and claiming, these are two terms of the same field for me. But you see, you can be open for waiving something, but if you could keep it open, those who can, please contribute, and not limited to 3,800, maybe 5,000, or there is no limit. But this should be always open for all the Aurovillians, those who have, those who can, those who are happy, they should be contributing to then that would actually enrich the spirit of prosperity.
I am sorry if any aspect of my presentation felt like there is a limitation. No, of course, you can write off all that you have towards Auroville. Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, see, Anita has been raising hand. Yeah, keep account. Yeah.
So yeah, Aurasugan here. I think there is two sides to it. So FMC holds one part of it. So if a person is dependent on some kind of a thing that they need to come to FMC, they can get that contribution. For example, I can give an example. If you need to get a DCG donation, you need to pay the city service contribution. But for somebody who does not depend on any money or any external funds, so they don't need to do it. For example, in my case, I did not get my maintenance was cut, but in spite of that, I was asked to pay my city service contribution. So to pay my city service contribution, I had to take a 45,000 rupees loan to auto to pay my city service contribution. So there are two kinds of things that is happening. So it's like, you go to government. If you don't need any subsidy or anything, you can do whatever you want. If you go to get a loan, then you need your PPA approval, everything like this. So this kind of a system is there. So I think that needs to be thing, maybe an email to that, or maybe you can just putting in no Oronet, something can help. But you know, some kind it's very strict, and some people who do not want to do anything or they don't depend upon it, they don't care about it. So I think that it should also be a mindset change from people who needs to come, because I started paying my city service contribution automatically now, but now I plan to stop it because I'm feeling that whatever I'm paying is not valuing it to either an Aurovillian at the later end, because I don't see that kind of a thing will be taken care. So I think that is to it.
To just add to that, Orosugan, okay, Orosugan, small feedback or observation is that the way I look at it, FAMC is just 2 members right now, or 2.5. And I would not put it as they versus us. The way I see it, I mean, they are us in a way. And and that's the whole idea of having such conversation. If you see that you can contribute to the collective, work with FAMC, be part of that waiver service. If you know enough residents and you know you have a good sense of judgment, and if you know people's backstories, become part of FAMC.
Yeah, I think that is a good suggestion. Yeah, that is to it. But what I also feel, this is my personal thing, FMC, I know the numbers are very less, but I personally feel there is too much of firefighting of things that is happening regularly. You know, so I feel this is because the other teams are not empowered to do this. I don't feel like, you know, housing is not empowered, so an FMC comes and takes a decision. But if you empower BCC, or if you empower housing services to take a decision, and there is an annual budget and there is an annual plan for those particular thing, I don't think that firefighting is required. Because we don't have this kind of a system, the firefighting is there. So that is my point, and I understand the point that we need resources. Yeah, thank you.
Again, we have this issue. Yes. Yes. And when you ask the question, also say who is it pointed towards, so that who, yeah.
Hello, my name is Dhaya. My concern of the city service contribution is I would not stop completely, because this gives a feeling of family, and like you in a family, you know, whatever we earn, we put it in a pot and then we take it back. So, but it should be also dealt individually and look at the situation, and if people work sincerely, maybe they can be waived. If they don't have resource, and if you really know the situation, I think something can be done. But completely cutting and waiving, I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you. That point is taken. I think what Lakshay's point is just suggesting those things to FAMC right now. It's not that all the point will be taken. And I was also in the same view as Sylvia, actually. It just, you don't feel like you are part of the family if you just cut off that portion. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and making the video and this whole process. I would maybe request FMC to consider opening the channel for people who are willing to create units, income generating, with a service spirit to have their own units. Right now it seems to be on hold. I know quite some people, very creative people, who would really like to contribute. Financially, they have the multiple capacities. And like water needs to flow, wealth needs to flow. So this willingness at this very interesting transition period, there is still willingness for people to come, willingness for the children to be born. Some people are going away, some people are dying off. there are still people willing to stay, willing to create. I hope all the channels for their creation can be open and there can be a supportive community atmosphere for that. Thank you.
Focus on the presentation, it'll be good, but I will answer to what you asked. Last 2 months being in FAMC, we have said maybe to 2 or 3 units, no to 2 or 3 units to be registered, because either it was already being done by somebody or it is not going to be compliance. There will be a lacking in compliance basically. So otherwise, my main idea was coming into FAMC is that to collaborate with whoever it is. The only thing we are looking at is goodwill. If anybody comes with goodwill and good thoughts and want to collaborate, definitely we are not saying no to that. So in the last 2 months, we said only to 2 or 3 units only. So we are open, you can come with ideas. Quite a lot. Whatever came, let's say if 10 came, only 2 were said no. Yeah, 80% we are saying yes to that, yeah.
I would like to speak a little about the contributions, called contributions. I think one of the problems that we have inherited is that sometimes the guidelines given by the mother to direct Auroville have not been followed for years. Some of them have been changed the names to make it more beautiful, but it's a total falsehood. One of them is the contributions. The contribution is, if it is contribution and is not a tax, has to be voluntary. This is the definition between contribution and tax. If it is compulsory, it's a tax. Or economic groups for years called to the taxes that were compulsory in Auroville, and I have seen in the working committee for some time, we were receiving a lot of complaints about this, because they were asking amounts of money that the people could not contribute. And this was called contributions, and recently the working committee prepared a paper and presented to, there is a new structure that is called coordination of the different groups in Auroville, and we took the decision as much as we can collectively. This paper was presented for the FNC, and it was attending this topic, and we were telling that the mother recommended for Auroville not to have taxes. So if the taxes have to disappear, this personal contribution, we have 2 options. Or we call a tax, or if we follow what the mother was telling, this tax should disappear. This is what we were recommending in this paper. This paper was discussed and was approved by all the groups of Auroville. Okay, that for your knowledge, because it's good that you know where are we at each aspect. So this was recommended to the FNC to disappear. And if we want to still contribute, okay, it's a contribution, but it's free. Everybody will give whatever they like. Or can be some guideline, okay, those that want to contribute, we are recommending this figure or whatever. But what we cannot call is this a contribution and was a tax. This was a falsehood. And we have tried to change this, and we are waiting for the FNC to come and to respond to this question that was approved by all the groups. Okay, that's all.
Hello. So from the prosperity point of view, one of the main element that I see is equality. So, but right now I can see, like practically, I can see a lot of people who are actually struggling from finishing a 1 month to another month financially. But there's also other people who are part of the maintenance scheme who can just easily can decide in few days and go for fancy holidays also. So how do we, as a community, when we try to eliminate the element of money, how do we how do we solve this problem? How can we go forward? Because we actually see people who are financially struggling, and practically who people just don't need the maintenance system at all, for instance, or the prosperity seem to self-sustain. So how do we move forward from this? Like, because in the end, we actually aim to have the same lifestyle or same needs to move forward as an Aurovillian.
Okay. Um, as far as, I mean, I understand what you're saying because I am living on the maintenance and I understand. I mean, right now my account has 115 rupees. So, but I also would like to know, how do we even, is that even the point of Auroville? I don't think so. Equality is not the point. It's not that I need to have as much as he has or she has. I am here to serve Auroville in whatever capacity I can, as long as I can. And I need certain things, and somehow, by like Deven said in the video also, I don't know how, but things just organize itself, and I'm able to serve, I'm able to do this kind of work. So if it is about equality, dear, I'm not sure if that's the point of this entire exercise. It's not. What we are trying to achieve, again, that's what I said, we need to move towards collective services. Like, you don't ask puncture service, how many punctures did you put? Like, your neighbor got 2 punctures, you should also come and put 2 punctures on my bike. No. You call for them when you have a puncture on your motorcycle. And many months go by when I don't call them. So that's not the point at all, in my view. If you have any other opinion, please share. And there is also a certain conditioning they come with. And like all this kind of questions, when I read Mother, there is this favorite phrase of hers which I like, and I remind myself often when I kind of go through this kind of drift. She says, if you have not gone beyond it. If you have not gone beyond it. So when I look at somebody with some fancy things, oh, that's flashy, very nice, good phone, latest model or something, then if there is even something that even little bit, I don't know what it means, then I remind myself, if you have not gone beyond it. I mean, that's how I look at it. Because it is very difficult to achieve right now. What you said as very, I mean, fancy holidays, yes, but there are many. The reality is also, we have an international community, and there are people who have adopted Auroville as a home, and they do not have enough resources to go back, visit their family, sometimes elderly parents. So this also is a reality. So to go back to their home country, if we have to equally provide for everyone, then how would somebody from local area, they will get 1 lakh rupees going and coming ticket, I will not get because my ticket is just 10 rupees, 20 rupees. No, difficult. So in that sense, I'm sorry if I answered you, and I understand. I'm not saying that it's not a reality. We look at the cafes in Auroville, it really pains me. I feel like, who are you building these cafes for? Because Aurovillians with their meager maintenance cannot afford all the menu items, and with the right hand column of prices exorbitant. Then I look at these restaurants and I say, hey, if you have not gone beyond that, that's it.
So this is what I think as an individual, and this I agree as a point of view from an individual, but as a community, as like an FAMC or working groups or anything, I think it's really important to have a, like, at least, I know that it can't be like, we can't start from scratch. It's not like we can't have identical life like everyone, but I think there should be, we all should not hold the money part, yeah? We should let go that. But as a community, how are we trying to promote it? Or like, is there any measure? Because I see this as a big drawback, and like, so that this is my...
The whole exercise of prosperity is to find out how to cover all the basics for everybody to start with.
If if I ask question, there is no problem for housing, maintenance, visa, because I want to ask a lot of questions. First of all, if you have the best prosperity system, it only works with the right people, Lakshay. You know my way, you know. If you put in the wrong people like mafia or subgroup or that group or this or that, it doesn't work. Need right people and honest people, okay? The next things, it's about the accounting in Auroville, okay? Financial service. You know, 2 months ago, I just looked at my financial service and I saw like 6,000 rupees reduced from my account from Nandini unit. Even I don't have an account in Nandini, you know, and I was like, how possible they reduce 6,000 rupees from my account? Okay, accounting is very important. Prosperity also is important, but accounting also important. We know the accounting, Auroville accounting, it's very bad. All of us we know. Mafia, this, that, this group, that friend, this group, that friend. It's not works. It's like that. Okay, and the next things, equality for whom? You know, I know a lot of people, they are not paying contribution to housing service. But when you ask a help from the housing service, they said, no, equality for everyone. No, there is no equality for everyone. You know my point, of course. Thank you so much.
I would say good initiative, good effort. The way I am reading or I am taking away is this is more of a R&D for Auroville, research and development. And if I take example of also my experiences and community life for collective engagement, most of the groups naturally, because of the way the project of Auroville is designed and evolving, we remain fairly nice in firefighting. You know, somehow we are always in that mode. So enough time has gone in terms of understanding that this firefighting will continue more or less because of the nature and degree of complexity what we face with. It is high time that we establish the group, those who will lead in terms of research and development. So SIRE has also research in its, the R is for research. So it is working, doing amazing work also, but the research which will lead the, or provide perhaps some of the guiding light after proper detailed research. Everybody is seeking answers, they will come only through those things. The rest is, it will remain same, how do we develop trust? Same question, which was from day one till now. Well, in the beginning of Auroville, I have multiple points to share and observations. In the beginning of Auroville, the way people came and they has helped establish the physicality, environment, forest, all of that. So you had the nursery and people, those who were required for that, that situation to respond to. We are in a totally different stage now. We need more of organizing capacity, which can bring it all together and also share the input of that certain quality. And on that quality, I have a comment even about the work which has been presented. Our accounts are audited every time. It is, maybe they are not well recorded. People are complaining the training capacity is not good, perhaps. But it is very strange and almost in a metaphorical or way of saying, it's unacceptable that our database is still not in place while being a very small community. So my take is this presentation will not go further beyond a point if it is not substantiated with a detailed data research. It has the chances of going in the danger zone of, again, going by a certain visionary approach, which is fine. Many have happened before. If it is not detailed out further with the data, we are not likely to make progress. So we must spend all the time, energy, or even resources to establish an R&D group, something like that for entire Auroville, not only for FMC. FMC is one of the area which is leading and dealing with resources. I don't know who can note down either these suggestions, recommendations, or who will so-called approve them. But if some of those points. One point which came to my mind was about this 6 crore. So it has again multiple layers. The people, those who gave, and we were one of them, those who were paying or giving half contributions. that half contribution was based on our the then economic situation of ours as well as units. So it was true for that time. Now, if you ask us to pay the so-called due from a 3,800 perspective, it is changing also a bit of a rule of the game. So how do you do that? I'm not saying we should not have resources, but there has to be a certain way to deal with it. Another, in terms of idea which comes to my mind, I don't know what could be the possibility and a provision if any unit in Auroville, those who may have some surplus, if they are requested, approached, encouraged, inspired, can they cover this 6,000 rupees deficit? And this money what they pay is to be treated in a different way in their accounting system, whether donation or which is, say, useful for them, helpful for them, beneficial for them. It should not be on the punishing side for them. So if these ideas are possible, because Auroville by and large has been really on a care, trust, people have been helping out each other. That has been the way of life or underlying current. So if we connect to the same energy and if these provisions are made for that, something like this is just as a suggestion level. So if you are likely to take it more on that side, but the detail, I think database. Now, I come to the third part. I have been talking to some of you individually. It is also known that we have sometimes the lack of available manpower capacity to work on those, and partly it is reflected in your presentation. Not hire people from outside, but from inside, and you also know the counter arguments for them. One of the way in which I have been operating, maybe with some amount of usefulness, if not success, but I do believe if we know where we need help, if we have organized that much, there are enough resources in the world, like donation as an example, those who can help you even with the detailed research. We may not have people, but if we know what we are looking, so there is enough energy, people, resources, universities, very trained professors, many other people are there. But if we keep our basic things in order, they will be your counterpart in doing that kind of work. So I think something like this could also be taken up. This could be taken up so that we prepare our basics in place, and then other people can contribute and develop on those things. These are some of the points which come to my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalit. So when we asked Lakshay to help us with this prosperity research and give us this R&D, which he has done generously and is being so helpful to us, but in the last moment he came to us and said, I need more data, and it was really awkward for FAMC to sit there and say, oh, we don't have data after 50 plus years, just with 3,000 people. So what is happening is Chandresh is putting a lot of effort into that, trying to streamline everything so we can get into that data. Without that, whatever Lakshay has shown right now is just symbolic figures only. So once we get that only, we will be able to give the right figure. Just with the data is so important for us right now. No, but we need it.
For example, how much amount money, because we are talking a language of money, what is the amount which Sire spends on educating a child in Auroville? How come I don't know?
Okay. So
just you can respond in one go. That is the one point. It's not that I want to know. My point is there is a PTDC is providing incredibly good service the way I see. There is a huge amount of exchanges, facilities, even cultural life which gets developed around it. If we are not discovering and bringing it out, today's presentation is also highlighting certain situation, possibility, prosperity, abundance, but the language is still quite around money. There is a huge amount of intangible economy which is happening, which has not been captured. So if some work happens in that direction also, we will have a better picture to understand perhaps where people can connect more. So that is also required, understanding very well that there is a clear shortfall of certain amount for people to pay maintenances. But we are also here to do a bit more R&D, I would say so.
Can I answer from FAMC? So what you call R&D, as FAMC, we are saying we need to have a understanding of where we are, what is our capabilities, what it is gonna take to first get everybody to be in a circle, maybe 80%, 80-20. But each of the entities today in Auroville has to have a certain simple framework to start with to understand what their cost center budgeting and accounting modality should be. School will be different. I'm starting to prepare for SIRE, a whole overview. I'm working on trying to also set up a framework for the water service. We're going to do for electrical service. We're going to do for, so idea is unless as FAMC we understand what we need, but also what's our capabilities, we will not know where the lack of thing is. We were just running, it was running as it was running. Even BCC was 3 years delayed before. Now we are trying to bring it on time, right? That's why the centralized accounting gives us real-time information on what the cash flow is. And of course, there'll be lack of it and all that. But first, set up the framework to have the data which is coming in. That is what we are working towards. Actually, it is there. And not there, but the frameworks are being set up now. So in another year, 2 years, we will have each of the groups we're going to work with FAMC, the bigger ones to start with. And later, I'm also trying to move towards even the IGU to say that you need to understand that what are your areas that you need to strengthen, where you are today, and where your challenges are. And maybe a lot of them will continue just because they want to have a foothold, right? So we'll have a pain factor also to streamline and say, look, these are the areas we can help. These are the areas we'll have to close. Okay, so we are starting to move towards that. First, the bigger. Unless we have the full understanding of how much it takes to maintain our water infrastructure, how much does it take to maintain our electrical infrastructure, where are the drawbacks, what does the community can support, what community cannot support, and now we are wanting to expand, right? So we also need to do expansion budget. We are not even, here we are just talking of the personnel aspect of it. We haven't even talked of the FAMC's work, which is at the really different level. But in order to get the personnel aspect of it, we have to understand what is the cost of water, okay, today and in next 2-3 years. What is the cost of energy that each person is, today our Varuna is giving certain amount of energy, right, to each individual. Now, water also, there is an average of India. We can also find out what Auroville is consuming. That all we have. We have certain of these data, right? So idea is that for a basic, simple basket for those who are working in services, those who are working in IGU, those data we know. We know if we have to start with today's amount of maintenance, but separate it and distribute it centrally as budgets, for individual and for personnel, it's all available. Those information we have, we can start putting into Zoho, we can start doing into proper accounting. And that is why I'm very, very quite sure that we can get rid of this prosperity, the contribution tax part of it, okay? Because we budget it into the fixed part, which then we exactly know what is required, because there are 600, 700, whatever the number gets floating, right? We know that, there are certain number of in BCC support, so many in IGU support, and then the rest. If everybody gives at least their cost part of it to survive, right? Because anyway they need water, anyway they need energy, anyway they need communication, health, housing maintenance, right? So if we know that these are the true cost of a housing service, the true cost of a water service, electric service, then we can divide by the total number of residents and we know per quanta. So all those things are being worked out now. So then we don't need to have some people give or not give and all that. If everybody willingly works together to give, I think we can cross that bridge, okay? We have a roadmap to make and cross that bridge.
I want to make two comments on that. First is what you are asking for, transparency. I know we have had many conversations around this topic. And I think you have been doing it for decades right now, asking for data and organizing it. If it has not happened, I think it is not because there is some sort of a grand design to stop it. It is the collective, that's how it works. Even this survey results, I didn't publish it because I'm reluctant. What will people say? People are in general in Auroville very reserved. They're not, they expect transparency from others, but are hardly willing to offer it themselves. You can say that about anything. Do you have data moving openly? No. Which means we are constantly struggling because we are also not a hierarchy. We are all flat. I can come and ask you, I can request you for some data. If you don't give, what can I do? So this is where I think the role of secretariat has to also, they need to understand, perhaps, I don't know if they are listening, that their focus should be somewhere else. They are a secretariat for Auroville Foundation, not only for GB, which means they are responsible for Residence Assembly and IAC also. All this kind of data holding and this institutional memory can be held by secretariat. So all this data should be one point I should be able to ask Basu or somebody, and they should be able to give. What we can do, what we as Aurovillians are good at doing, is this kind of spurts of energy. Sometimes we come together, sometimes we fight. For many years we may not talk to each other. So we go through this kind of phases. We are very cyclical. We need a stabilizing force, and that's where a secretariat can be the stabilizing force. This is what I said when she was here in the last meeting, that she needs to govern and we need to function. Right now they are functioning and we are misgoverning.
The questions that are about SIRE, you can come by SIRE and we can give you the data. It's just that SIRE doesn't only have the R, it has ER, educational research. So by and large, we have been focusing on educational research, and research is what brings a new idea to the whole world. It is not only about what is it that is something that you need now. It's about the education that we need for the future, for the whole world. This is our perspective at SIRE, right? However, if we are asked, we are happy to do other kinds of research in terms of how are other countries handling it, organizations handling it, similar communities handling the same kind of issues that we are having. I'm sure it's there. So if that kind of research is needed, we are happy to look at that as well. Thank you.
SIRE has been pronounced in French, no? I guess last two letters are silent. Now they are emphasizing. Manoj.
Thank you for the great deal of work that has gone into it. Happy to see the focus on both sides, both distribution as well as wealth creation, and identifying that we need to at least 5 times wealth creation required if we are to have the prosperity we are aspiring for. On one side, this clarity is there, but at the same time, I see the policies coming from the foundation office to be not very conducive for the thriving of the wealth creation. Yes, there are beautiful aspirational references in the GB reports regarding startup ecosystem, all that beautiful words are there. But when it comes to policy decisions, they have very little to do with the possibility of wealth creation. Now, I do not know to what extent your group can influence or recommend. If we are to have recommendation, for example, those who know wealth creation, those who are in that field, can those who are engaging in that field suggest these are the kind of policy level support that will enable them to increase the possibility of wealth creation. Instead of people who have never been to the field, never done that work, creating policies. If something like that can be done, it will be very helpful. I'm sure at this point of time, capital investment in wealth creation may not be realistic. At least policy-wise, not to cripple, and create the right policies, and perhaps recommending something perhaps could be of value. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj. I agree with you. I mean, this is part of that, what I said, no? Like right now they are trying to function and a little bit divorced from the reality. Going forward, what we are trying to do, we don't know. There is no commitment. Nobody asked us also. We are doing it ourselves. It's as a collective coming together and doing it. And I think there is value in what we are trying to do. And this is the only way forward. I mean, clashing, we tried that for 4 or 5 years. Fighting is not, I mean, it's only keeping us in our individual rooms. It's not bringing us together. So going forward, next, as I said, from 24th April, when this is done, our next conversation, and already we have created a kind of a informal group for wealth generating services. We have recognized the top 50 income generating service of Auroville, and we will call for some sort of a conversation. As I said, ideas are there. There is no dearth of ideas, like Lalit also said. We just need to put into action. And right now, this constellation that is forming, it's not bad. It's a little bit effective. We are moving forward. It's not, as fast as one would expect. We are inching towards slowly, but nevertheless, some sort of a progress. Thank you.
I think, Lakshay, first we have to thank the team which made that film this morning, right?
I started with that. Thank you.
Are they still here or not?
Yeah, they are here. Saran,
and now
thank
we know
you,
that,
Sajiv.
No, but now we know the true reason why the whole thing was postponed by a week.
Perhaps.
the film wasn't ready. It was not data which was not available.
And Dhaya also,
ready.
Sorry, big shout out to him.
Anyway, so there are a few corrections to be made in the slides. One very big one, 100 crore mistake, and another one which is about 50 crore. You see, when that slide says 3,000 Aurovillians at 25,000 rupees per month as the cost of prosperity, that comes to 90 crore a year, not 200. And then you have to add another 10, 20 for maintenance of assets, so it is 100, not 200. So it's 50%. The other mistake which I see in the whole thought process is, in one slide, you have calculated 75 crores is required for prosperity, right? 3,000 people, or was it 2,000? No, it was 2,500.
Individual sustenance.
Exactly. But we have to realize, and then you say, so this is what BCC needs, and this is what it has. And then you come to the gap.
If I may correct a little bit, not correct, I want to know that you are correcting me correctly. 200 is part of the conversation. It was captured in the cluster conversations, so it comes from there. What I quote is 2,500 residents into 25,000 per month, which is 6.25 into 12. That is 75 crores per year.
I've understood.
And that is only half of individual sustenance. 75 crore for collective sustenance. Put together, I recommend 150 crore.
Yeah.
Now you say.
No.
Yeah.
So, first of all, that slide which talked about 200 was indeed from the session I was in.
Yeah, correct.
And I was the one to say 100 crore, and if we double the population, it becomes 200.
Okay.
And now it is only 100, not 200.
Now I know who that was.
That's a small thing. No, but we have to understand that even this 75 crore is not for BCC to cough up. The BCC only has to find the money for the units, for the services that do not generate income. So the total 75 crore of maintenance that you have calculated, 2,500, comprises two components. One component is those who work in services.
That's right.
And the other component is those who work in income generating.
Absolutely.
That is generating its own income. So the 75 crore is probably only 25, because another way to calculate it is that you mentioned 350 people in services roughly, or 400 maybe?
587.
Okay, so if you calculate that, you come to definitely much less than 75 crores. So these are, nevertheless, the situation is quite serious, but it is not as serious as this presentation was going to make. My concern is also that if you see the amounts that BCC has in their present budget for the maintenance of the infrastructure of Auroville, it's a peanut. It is symbolic, right? 0.25, 0.1. For example, I know a bit more about electrical infrastructure. The actual requirement is about 90 lakhs for 26-27 to just maintain what is there. Right? The total assets in the ground are about 30 crores. You take 3% of it, you come to 90. They get only about 20. And that's why there is a huge backlog of maintenance of these assets. And you see the same thing, most probably, with water, communication, and roads. So this is definitely a serious matter which has to be addressed. What the income generating units have to generate as a bottom line is the total sum required to run the non-income generating activities of Auroville, of which prosperity is just one component. Right? So the income generation of Auroville has to be equal to the total cost of running education, services, everything that does not generate income. That is the equation to be put on the screen.
Okay, you wanted me to scare that much? Okay.
No, it's not for
No,
scaring.
yeah, I get it.
But let us get worried about the right thing and not about the wrong thing.
Fair enough. See, the number that you are saying for 150, I get what you're saying, but what we are trying to put together is not change the name of BCC, Prosperity Services separate, and in its kitty every month, income generating services will send the money as part of sustenance, and even BCC will send money to that prosperity service based on all the collective services, people who are engaged in collective services. And those, there are three components to it. Those individuals who are not part of income generating and collective services, even those individuals will pay from their own personal money to that collective prosperity service. So there are three streams of income that comes to prosperity service, and then it gets distributed to all the services and the individuals. And I agree with you. We need, I mean, if you remember, we have done on creating the assets, all the numbers that it's huge, no? 30, 20, but by some calculation, 25,000 crore to 50,000 crore, we need to build the cities. Mother wanted in 10 years. Even if we have to calculate from today to 10 years, we need 50,000 crores.
So that is for creating the asset.
Correct.
I'm talking about maintaining
maintaining
the assets which we have. And there is another very strange thing which has happened, is that if you see the balance sheet of Auroville Foundation as of 31st March 25, it has numbers for assets which don't make sense at all.
Yeah, it's 750 odd crores.
Electrical assets in the balance sheet are 3.5 crore. The actual assets are 30 crores.
Correct.
Same thing for water, same thing for buildings. So the balance sheet does not at all reflect the actual assets that we have to maintain.
Yeah. Anyone else? Those who are a little quiet from the back? Anyone? Yeah, conclude.
Hi.
Shall we?
Lakshay, last one.
Last one and last one. Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for the presentation. I can see how much work you've put into it. What struck me was that the discussion has been over the years. Okay, for me, first thing, it's just a suggestion for the next presentation or when you make the report. Why prosperity? Like the epistemology seems to be missing here. One, that explanation of probably why. The second thing that I find is that we are concentrating so much on the working class. Let's call it that, just for lack of words, okay? So there's maintenance. You can replace it with whichever word you want. But are we creating this gap between Aurovillians themselves who run businesses and then are in service? Why? Like, if everyone is here as a servitor, then why was the system created where one gets a fixed salary, maintenance, prosperity amount, no matter how much they work, how well they work, whatever, and then there's this thing that, okay, you are the servitor. So we feel like it's like wherever convenience comes, you're the servitor. But on the other hand, the business units, they have the 67% also that motivates them and is an incentive. I'm not saying that everyone needs to get that. That brings us back to this thing, the topic of equality. I don't believe that even Mother has said it's not possible. There needn't be equality to have unity or harmony. But in all of these things, why are we not choosing then based on merit how you work? What is the work you are doing? What is the productivity level that you have? Because somewhere this creates, and I'm not talking about the financial gaps that we have, but it's about the spirit, the exhaustion of the spirit.
Okay. Yeah. 2 quick points. One is that 67%, yeah, but let's give a benefit of doubt to them that 67% is to reinvest into the business so that next year more money can come. So that's how we should take it. And we can have a conversation, like I said, the 33% can be dynamic. Why fixed? It's not again a tax. It was basically, if I'm correct me, the old timers here, it was said at least give 33%. It was not fixed. And that has de facto become a fixed amount, which we can change again. The second aspect is, again, you are trying to create a system which is very alien to Auroville. Who will judge who is working dedicatedly, properly, not taking anything personally? Very difficult, Reju. I think
No,
what
no,
we
no.
need to create.
I am not at all going in
Wait,
that
wait,
direction.
wait. Let me finish. So what I think Sanjeev, all the frames that initially he touched, I don't know if you were there in the initial, he did start with why we are here. And that's how at least we pursue everything in Auroville, why we are here. The first question, why, how, and what is later. Those things come later. The second aspect is, if, how do we even look into this kind of equality? I told her before also. Is that even a pursuit? Because
I'm
it
not
is
seeking equality. I'm not at all seeking equality. I'm just saying, if everyone is a servitor,
Correct.
then how do we nurture the spirit of being
which
a
we all
servitor?
need to hold into within, that's it, in a discovery.
But how does the organization or whatever system that we create, how does that support that ideal?
That's really Riju, you have a good question. Here I will say it's not a difficult question, it's a good question. Because you're right, there was a time in 2017, there was a code of conduct that was created by the Auroville Board of Commerce. Okay. And maybe there was a lack of a clause which says the people in unit can draw some amount that they need. I mean, doesn't say, as I said, it was not coded. So what happened is the disparity for those who felt, like Lakshay says, they needed more, they took more. Those who were sincere, they gave, they took only the prevalent maintenance. So what we are trying to do right now, people may feel it's equalizing, that's not. Idea is we need to be accountable, transparent, and scalable. We all have to understand from FAMC perspective, we have to create a systems. Okay, initially they will look egalitarian, it will look all that, but until we have a system whereby at least we can sustain bulk of the people, the willing servitors, that has to be prepared. Okay, now coming back to your question, what is going to happen is once FAMC has set up the Zoho system, whereby all the payroll, those who are on a staff, on the first of the month, button is pressed by the accountant or a bookkeeper, all the staff's salaries, everything goes, right, on every month. The salary goes to the bank, the EPF goes to the EPF, Same thing, there is a Auroville prosperity package and module on the first of the month for everybody. Those in IGU or in BCC PAM, it just goes and gets to the prosperity service, which then gets distributed to the big services that provide the service to the individuals, So what happens is, irrespective of whether you're in a unit or BCC, your thing will only come that amount that we all together agree on. It's like egalitarian, but so the individual executives can't take more. Now, if they be unscrupulous and take differently without accounting it back, that we have to let go. But accounting wise, it will become at least transparent for now. And then we have to see how to also talk to everybody, say, look, it's not only expenses that you hide and take, but see how we can generate more, because here are all the areas that we do all need to support. Okay, so these are the talks we have to start also with them.
One more. Lakshay. Thank you very much. Lakshay, that film that you made is excellent, really, really good, except one thing, that the transition between Anandi and Jaya, there was a quote from Mother, was too fast. But I knew that quote, so I would like to share that quote. It's one of the most beautiful quote from Mother, which I use quite often. The purpose of money is not to make more money, but to make this world a better place. What I say, let's use our money to make Auroville a better place. That's what I did with the Kalpana and Sanjeev. We poured in our money and we made it a better place. I'm very happy about it. Now, going back to money making, Sri Aurobindo said making money is not difficult. Then he said that I'm not interested. But Mother gave lots of information how to generate income. And Sri Aurobindo also gave some hints. They don't give you all this, but they give hints. For example, one occult practice mother said, I very well follow. If you are having currencies in your hand, but now we don't use currencies, you first put $500 note or rupees note, then you put 200, then you put 100, then you put 50, then you put 20, then you put 10. But there also there is an order. You cannot put Gandhi's head this way or that way. It should be in order. I practice that, and I feel like I believe in that. The money flows. Then Sri Aurobindo talks about Marwadis. They have the neck of making money, and he explains how they make the money. So there are people who have the capacity to make money, like Manoj said. We need to identify them, give them a chance. There are 4 units which is making more than 1 crore rupees. We should give them a chance. So there are 2 suggestions. One, you said 72 crore rupees is going as wages. Is it correct? Why the unit is not taking Aurovillians? Because they are worried about taking Aurovillians because they come and work for 5 hours and say that that's what mother said. So what we need to say, if you want 5 hours, instead of 8 hours, you get 62% of the wages. Yeah? A final one. The final one. The final one. If you want to generate capital, very easy. A lot of people parking their money in a very, how can I say, passive way of generating money. A lot of us parking the money in fixed deposit or mutual fund. If you say that you park the money in Auroville, we will give the interest, I think a lot of money will come to us. A lot of people will put money to support Auroville. That's all.
Thank you, Prasad. I think we should have this conversation. I think we are getting signal from Bharat Nivas. All those are, they're asking us to go. So may I ask last final thoughts from Uma, Suryaka, I didn't hear. Final closing thoughts, and then we have a silence, and then we retire for tonight.
The final thought is that this is the first step with the true intent behind to change where we are into what we need to be.
I see it that we have made quite a progress of putting things together and direction, and we keep moving, and that's a very good beginning today.
I trust we are not against on prosperity. We strengthen our services, automatically the prosperity will turn. This is my strong belief.
I just want to quote a short conversation I had during this survey when I asked someone who had given decades, of this person's life to Auroville, like many, and given it all. And then when I asked, how do you feel now? There are, some people who come and they do some remote online work. They're Aurovillians, but they don't, contribute enough. And his response was, I feel pity for them. They are so poor that they are living in Auroville and missing the chance of, giving them fully to the divine. So I feel how can we, and it was what was also expressed in many of our meetings was that how can we kind of go past this current division that we have. I mean, there are divisive forces and uniting forces, and right now the dividing forces are active, but how can we really not look at a person as doing right or wrong, but how can we bring back the community together in this process, because without trust, without that love, care, compassion, no system will work. So maybe take steps towards that is the aspiration I share.
Thank you, and I think everything is possible. So far, what I have asked with Mother, she has always given me. So prosperity is nothing. It's just that I feel we have to ask her sincerely. That's all.
Yes, and I think we have to be together. Not anymore, this is the income generation, this is the services. We can only look at one economy, which is the Auroville economy, all together.
I just want to say thank you for all of you, for it was a learning experience, sometimes challenging, sometimes grueling, but we did walk together this path. So thank you for working together. Thank you, Sanjeev.
We have made our offering and we hope the best comes out of it. And we offer it to the Mother. We can close with a moment of consecration.